What is up? What is up, awesome people of the internet? Guys, I am finally back home. I'm back in my studio, aka living room, and we ready for another edition of Quita in the Morning. So thank you so much for joining me. Sorry about the delay, and let's get into it, because Quita in the Morning starts now.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Are you ready? Ready, set, go.
Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Okay, let's get into today's show because we got a couple of things to talk about. Not like a crazy amount, but a couple of things, couple of random things to talk about today. And let's first start off talking about the games that were, aka the games that happened yesterday. And to be fully clear, to be fully transparent with you guys, because I was traveling basically all day yesterday, I was not able to actually really focus on the games that happened yesterday. So I do have some general recaps. However, I wasn't really able to lock in with these games. And so, I'll tell you what happened, but we're not going to go too in depth because I tell you what I see. And if I didn't see it, I can't really tell you nothing. Okay? But let's talk real quick about the games that happened yesterday. We saw the Minnesota Lynx. They ended up taking down the LA Sparks yesterday. 91 Minnesota, 82 for the LA Sparks. And this game, in terms of the MVPs of this game, well, it was two people. It was Napheesa Collier and it was Natisha Hiedeman. We all know Napheesa Collier, is rocking out, doing her normal thing. Though, it was a more balanced scoring effort, I would say, for the Minnesota Lynx. With Napheesa Collier only having 17 points in yesterday's game. 17 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists for Napheesa Collier. And once again, guys, I love the power of the Minnesota Lynx bench. Specifically, usually, Jessica Shepard and Natisha Hiedeman. And yesterday, Natisha Hiedeman, she was like, you know what? I need to ball out. I need to make myself known. I need to do my thing. And she did her thing yesterday. 18 points for Natisha Hiedeman coming off the bench, giving this Minnesota Lynx team a really awesome spark. For the Sparks, we saw Kelsey Plum do her thing. She had 17 points, 12 assists in yesterday's game, but just not enough help from the rest of her squad. Rakia had 14, De'Erica had 12, but just not enough. Ultimately, we see the LA Sparks go down in LA. All right, and then we also had another game that happened yesterday as well. We saw the Washington Mystics basically at the end of the game take care of business against the Las Vegas Aces. Now, remember, guys, the Las Vegas Aces were playing without A'ja Wilson. However, this still was a very winnable game. Very, very winnable game for the Las Vegas Aces. And, it just doesn't bode well that you still end up losing. But it's fantastic news for DC because the Mystics are absolutely cooking this year. Are absolutely cooking this year, right? We saw we're seeing Shakira Austin and Kiki Ira-Affin really gel together well. Shakira Austin almost a double-double with 16 points, 8 rebounds. Kiki Ira-Affin 12 points, 8 rebounds. They were doing their thing. They were doing their thing in this game. We did see Brittany Sykes do her thing as well with 18 points. Sonia Citron looked to have a quiet game, I would say. 9 points for her, going just 20% shooting from the field. And for the Aces, it was Jewel Lloyd who kind of got in her rhythm a little bit. 20 points for her. which was a huge spark for this team. And Chelsea Gray, 13, Jackie Young, 10. We saw Dana Evans bring in 11 points off the bench. And yeah, ultimately at the end of the game, we see the Washington Mystics end up getting the job done thanks to the likes of both Brittany Sykes and Shakira Austin, just making buckets down the stretch, and then that costly foul gave Brittany Sykes another chance at the charity strike. She made one of those free throws, and then Jackie Young ultimately could not seal the game, tying layup for the Las Vegas Aces, and then Vegas ended up losing. All right, again, we're not going too in depth because I didn't really get the chance to really lock into these games, and so yeah. Shamika says, I feel bad for the Aces. They have all the pieces, not sure what's going on. I mean, hey, they had a really good time, right? They had a really good couple of years, right? A really good couple of years. Marge says the ending was exciting. Yep. Laura says the Mrs. game was epic. And Good says I turned off the Mrs. game and they were losing badly. Then checked in and they won. See, that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes you don't give up. Don't give up. You never know what might happen. But I understand. Turning away from what looked like a blowout at first, but then ultimately it wasn't. And so, yeah. All right. Marge says my remote sometimes hates her when the games are bad. So you turn the channel if you're seeing it not go your team's way. Fair enough. I mean, yeah, they lost again. And they're not playing up to snuff. They're not playing as good as they should be playing. And so, yeah, of course, Becky is not going to be, she's not going to be happy about that, okay? She is not going to be happy about that. Okay. So that was what was happening in the WNBA yesterday. Actually, no, it wasn't. That wasn't the only thing that was happening yesterday in the WNBA. Just real quick. I know I've seen some of y'all already talk about this in the chat. Here's the deal. Twitter is a blessing and a curse for women's basketball fans. It is a blessing because it really is where women's basketball gathers online. It really is Twitter where we gather. And then secondarily, I would say is Reddit, and then YouTube, and then TikTok, and then Instagram, right? But like Twitter is where we convene. And there's a lot of stuff going on and has been going on. And here's the thing, on this channel, we're not talking. I'll talk about it if I feel like it's actually relevant. Ultimately, I think like a lot of this stuff is like dumb, and so yeah. I know y'all talking about it in the chat, or y'all was talking about it in the chat with the RG3 and all that stuff. Here's the thing, I'm not gonna talk about RG3, most likely, unless it has truly something to do with the game of women's basketball, and like I can actually pair it with other stuff and like package it into a thing. I'm not going to talk about Christine Brennan. I'm not going to talk about, a whole bunch of random stuff that I just personally feel is a huge distraction from the game of women's basketball. And so, yeah, you're not going to see it. So if you came here to be like, oh, what does Quita have to say about RG3? Yeah, no. I'm not going to talk about it unless I actually think I can package it into something relevant and like actually talk about it. But otherwise, it's a distraction, complete distraction. So with that being said, let's move on to something that is not a distraction, but something that you all may not know about. So I titled this stream, What's Going On in College Basketball? Because there have been some things talked about in women's college basketball that no, I don't think anybody else is talking about. So we're going to talk about it on this channel. Okay. So let's talk about the NCAA tournament, guys. Because why not? Why not? The NCAA tournament is always an exciting thing to watch every single year, as some of the best teams in women's college basketball duke it out to ultimately see who will be the champion. We ended up seeing the UConn Huskies end up winning the national championship this past year in dramatic flair. And yeah, I want to talk about it real quick. I want to talk about it real quick. Okay? Because guys, there were some proposed changes discussed, and there were some proposed changes that actually got accepted that will take place next year that you all may not know about. Okay, so let's get into it. So for the first time in forever, it seems, the NCAA tournament is on the brink of changing something. Kevin says, spoiler, it's UConn or South Carolina. It's actually women's basketball in general. However, I use Canva, and I end up labeling certain things, and I typed in NCAA, and because I don't label stuff correctly, the only photos that popped up were either UConn or South Carolina. So that's why you'll see UConn and South Carolina photos, because they were already in my Canva account. Okay. Okay. But no, the changes have nothing to do specifically with either South Carolina or UConn. It's just that they won the last two championships, and I just had a lot of photos of them. So yeah. Anyway, let's get into it. So here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. The NCAA for women's and men's, they ended up meeting this past week to discuss some stuff, and I want to talk about their discussion because it largely was related to the NCAA tournament format. So right now, the NCAA tournament format for both women and men is 68 teams, right? So 68 teams make it to the NCAA tournament. We see the first 4 games happen, which is when when 8 teams play against each other, and then boom, whoever wins those games actually make it to the real 64 team bracket. So really, it's 68 teams that make it, but really it's actually 64 because the first 4, it's important, but at the same time, the real bracket is 64. Okay, so 64 teams make the main bracket, and then it's single elimination from there, and then we keep whittling down until we get to the national championship game, and then we whittle that down, we get a champion, and boom, we have a champion. Okay, now, so that's how has historically been done, right? Well, for the last multiple years. Okay, but I do want to talk about a discussion that both the women's and men's team had. So this is a statement from the NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball Operations. And he said that the NCAA Division I men's and women's basketball committees met this week, with the men's meeting taking place in Savannah and the women's meeting taking place in Philadelphia. The topic of expanding the field for each championship was discussed at length, but no decision or recommendation was made. The still viable outcomes include the tournaments remaining at 68 teams or expanding to the fields to either 72 or 78 teams in advance of the 2026 or 2027 championships. So, why are we talking about this? The reason why we're talking about this is because, yes, a decision was not made this past week when both of these groups met. However, in this statement, you will see that clearly there is a possibility of the teams expanding, or of the tournament as a whole expanding either 26 or in either 2026 or 2027 to possibly 72 or 76 teams. Guys, that would be wild. Absolutely wild. And let's talk about it a little bit more. Let's talk about it a little bit more because the women's game has never been more popular, right? For the last several years, we have seen numbers go up and up and up and up. The NCAA tournament is a success when it comes to women's basketball right now. Complete and utter success. Right? I'm talking big time crowds. I'm talking lots of people in the millions watching on TV. Now, of course, it was the individual popularity of players make a huge dent in that, right? Of course, but it's never been hotter when it comes to women's basketball, right? But behind the scenes, as I just said, there is a conversation, a debate being had that could fundamentally change March Madness as we know it. And the question mark I have is, let me know in the chat what you think. Should the women's field expand beyond 68 teams? Should they expand? So let's break it down. As I said earlier this week, we saw the women's and men's committee meet. You see the quote right here. And plenty of discussion. No decision was made just yet. Again, the tournament sits at 68 teams. And it used to be 64, but it expanded in, I believe, 2011 for the men's side, and in 2022, I believe, for the women's side, expanding to 68. And the committees were thinking about, you know what, should we bump the field up? Should we bump the field up to 72 or what about 76? Potentially as soon as 2026. The fact is they do need to make a decision relatively soon, like basically close to the end of the summer, if they do want to make that change for 2026. So that way, stuff can get into place and whatnot, and they'll have enough time to do what they need to do. So you may be wondering, why are they moving it up? Why are they even having conversations about moving more teams into the NCAA tournament? Well, usual money. Okay, it's all about the money, honey, and power. The power, power, then 5, now 4 conferences are getting restless, right? Because they have teams that they feel are good enough to actually make the tournament themselves. And what if the Power 4 conferences get together and decide, you know what, we're going to make our own tournament. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to set our own stage, right? The NCAA wants to fully control basketball, right? And we are having the NCAA and the other teams saying, you know what, we also want more money. Okay? So why would they even consider expanding? Well, the Division I basketball scene has grown, right? There's been 50 plus more schools added to the Division I tournament, to actually add it to Division I as a whole in the last 30-ish years. There's a lot more parity when it comes to basketball. In a lot of ways, more now than ever. We're seeing more competitive teams just miss under the current setup. And to be honest with you guys, TV partners, conference commissioners, they're seeing dollar signs in their eyes. They're like, ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. More money is ready to be made, right? NCAA tournament, or NCAA president, I should say, Charlie Baker, said that, hey, he sees value in adding more teams. Of course he does, right? And so also, not only is this a money possible money grab for both the NCAA, for the major conferences, and for teams themselves. But also, they're like, you know what? It's not just all about the money because, and I would actually agree to some extent on this, they also argue that this is the opportunity for mid-majors and bubble teams to have a chance to actually compete and actually make it to the dance, which is a valid argument. When we look at the last couple of years for women's alone, for the women's tournament alone, it's primarily SEC, Big Ten, ACC, Big 12 teams, right? You don't see as many mid-majors and just sort of like possible Cinderella teams making it to the NCAA tournament because there's not enough space. So they're like, so the proponents are like, hey, if we expand, it could be a possibility that we may see some more mid-majors in the NCAA tournament, which the making it to the NCAA tournament will give those schools and those smaller conferences more revenue. And so, yeah. So there's a positives not just for the bigger schools and bigger conferences, but possibly for the smaller schools and smaller conferences as well. On paper, that actually doesn't sound that bad. Kind of. But then we got to talk about why people hate this deal. Why people hate this idea of 72, possibly 76 teams. Well, it's a lot, right? The tournament is already at 68. The first four is technically a part of that 68, the 68, but it's unnecessary, right? Right? The first four has already kind of watered down the NCAA tournament a little bit because just because you make it to the NCAA tournament, if you're in one of those first four games, it's like you didn't really make it because the bracket doesn't really begin until we get to 64. So it's already kind of watered down already. And then when we add more bubble teams that maybe finished less than 50% in a Power 5 conference, or maybe a really good possible Cinderella team from a mid-major conference, it then just continues to water down conference tournaments. Because here's the deal. What's the point of a conference tournament if you can have a losing record in your conference, you can get bounced out of your conference tournament early and still make the NCAA tournament? Like I think to a certain extent that's a bit much. It makes you wonder, okay, well what's the point of having conference tournaments to begin with for the bigger conferences if most of the or if a large portion of the conference is going to make the tournament anyway? And so that's an argument, right? That's an argument. And also the question is, do fans even want it? Do fans even want to add more games to an already packed schedule? Right? Do you want to wind up having 76 teams make it and continue to confuse the mess out of fans who are trying to figure out, okay, well, all these games are happening. What game should I watch? And like, yeah, it's a whole mess. There is a lot, I would say, in terms of negative things, right? Right. So if they do expand, what in the world would it look like? Well, it would mean likely an expanded first four round where we'd see a lot more teams participate. Instead of 8 teams participating in the first four round, maybe it's up to 24 teams that participate in that. It could mean fewer teams get automatic buys into the round of 64, right? It could possibly mean that more mid-majors sneak in, but realistically, the new teams that would get in would most likely be the SEC, the Big Ten, and the ACC teams, right? So technically, there would be a chance for mid-majors, but in practice, in reality, it likely wouldn't happen, right? It likely wouldn't happen. So What do y'all think? What do y'all think, guys? You know, the NCAA tournament for women, for the women's side, has been very exciting, right? We've been seeing numbers up the wazoo, and expanding now, possibly for the women, just because the men are doing it, possibly. It runs the risk of cheapening a product that is on the upswing, right? A product that people are falling in love with, a product that people are loving, like they're rocking with it. The women's field is less deep than the men's field. Yes, parity is growing. It absolutely is. Parity is growing in women's basketball. But I think that it could actually hurt the women's side way more than the men's side. On the men's side, I actually wouldn't. So, personal opinion here. I've kind of laid out the various arguments on like various sides of this thing, but I want to say where I stand here. My personal opinion is that this would be a disaster for women's basketball if they did expand to 72, maybe 76 teams. The reason why is because, as I said earlier, like parity is way better now than ever. However, it's not to the point where you can have 72 teams, possibly 76 in the NCAA tournament. The women's side is not like the men's side. The men's side I actually think could handle expanding, and I actually don't think it would hurt the men's side, actually. But I actually think it would hurt the women's side. It would dilute the product. It would dilute the storylines. It would spread out the focus so much that it would lead to confusion. It would lead to frustration. And on the women's side, that's just continuing trying to grow. That's not a good look, right? And so I am not in favor of this for the women's side. I'm not in favor of expanding to 72. I'm not in favor of expanding to 76. I think it should stay at 68. Truly, I think it should stay at 68, and then we should move from there and continue to grow the women's basketball tournament. Because yes, in theory, could this be good for mid-majors, which would be good for women's basketball? Yes, but in practice, I don't think this will actually benefit. I don't think this will benefit mid-majors. I really don't. I could see situations where you end up seeing SEC teams that have terrible records, making it to the NCAA tournament if it's 72, possibly 76 teams. So I am in full disagreement with this on the women's side. The men's side, I don't mind it. I really don't, because they're bigger. There is more. There's just more fans to go around, and so I don't think it would disrupt too much on the men's side, and ultimately I think the men's side can handle it. I actually don't think this will be good in the long term for the women's side. But what do y'all think? I'm curious to hear you all's thoughts about this whole thing. Let me know. And also, guys, remember, guys, we do have a secondary tournament for teams that don't make it. It's called the WBIT, guys. That is the NCAA's version of the NIT. It is called the WBIT. And that is for teams that do not make it into the normal NCAA tournament, right? And then you also have the WNIT, which is not affiliated with the NCAA, but that's another tournament that teams can play in if they don't make it to the regular NCAA tournament. So there are already other opportunities for teams. And so I'm not in favor of it, but that's the information. What do y'all think? Let me know in the chat. Here's the thing. What's next, guys? What's next is the NCAA will have a couple of more weeks to decide. But with the NCAA president and with the individual committees actually meeting about this, I actually really do think it's probably inevitable at some point. Definitely for the men, likely for the women as well. There is just simply too much institutional power and pressure from the conferences, from the schools, from media partners, because there's a lot of money to be made. Possibly a lot of money to be made. But let's be clear, in my opinion, expanding the women's tournament now would be a mistake. It is a possible fix for a problem that does not totally exist in the women's side. More games, sure, that's great. More money, you may or may not get that on the women's side. A better tournament, absolutely not. You don't get that. Absolutely not. So, the March Madness tournament for women's basketball is not just a postseason stretch of games. It is the perfect blend of competition, of storylines, of unpredictability, and tinkering with that too much. Guys, that is a gamble that I don't think we should be risking right now. So, here's hoping that at least on the women's side, they don't do anything. But we will ultimately see from here. What do y'all think about this? I'm very, very curious to hear what you all's thoughts are. Did y'all even know that the NCAA was even having these conversations? I'm very, very, very much curious to hear what you all have to say. W. Bazil says they could do Unrivaled for college players. Benita says, please like this chat. Yeah, if y'all could, please hit that like button. I know this is not the most sensational of topics, especially when I could be talking about the nonsense that's happening on Twitter. But I do think that this is important. And on this channel, like I want to give you all information that y'all may not know. Like that's what I want to do. I want to be the place for actual news, not just like random gossip about stuff. And so I hope that this is of interest, and we'll be doing more and I also have some more stuff that you all may not know. But we'll be doing more of this stuff as time goes on. And I just ask that you all, rock with me, continue to rock with me, continue to tell people about this channel and be like, hey, even if it's not about it's not about random drama, it's still interesting stuff. It's still stuff that you need to know as a W fan. All right. Quinton says, I think you're right, Quita. And no, I did not know about this meeting. Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, because I subscribe to so many subscriptions, I knew about it because I read, there's articles written about it. However, not everybody knew, because I don't know if they talked about this on ESPN or I don't know if this made the big rounds. Lindy says, I don't see how it could work. Road 2 says, I think this news was floating around the end of last year for the college season. It probably was. But they actually had conversations this week. Tisha said I had no idea. Well, now you know, because it's my super short show. Y'all remember that? Anyway, Mason says, yes, the rosters need to expand for the WNBA rather than expand the teams. More players mean... Oh, okay. Well, okay, now we're in the WNBA. Well, yes, we do need to expand rosters for the WNBA as well. Absolutely, completely agree. Completely agree. Okay. Guys, let's move on, because I do have two more stories for you all. I have two more actually related to women's college basketball stories to talk about. But first, real quick, let's talk about branded bills. All right, guys, when it comes to clean, high-quality custom apparel, branded bills got the game on lock, because it does. Branded bills has the game on lock. Whether or not you are interested in hats or T-shirts, it could be for hats, it could be snapbacks, it could be trucker hats, it could be fitted hats, bucket hats, whatever your favorite hat style is. They basically got you covered with a whole bunch of options. They sent me some samples of some of their hats, and first of all, I love the coloring. I love the colors, and I love the designs. This is by far my favorite hat design right now, because of course it's Chicago, because of course, why not? And then they got the style that's sort of like the ribbon sort of on the bottom of it. Anyway, the hats look fantastic. It's a perfect mix of style and function. And, sometimes you see hats on screen, or you see hats advertised, and when you get them, when you actually order them, the quality is not very good. Now, you don't have to worry about that with branded bills, because the quality of the hats are like absolutely fan-freaking-tastic, guys. And the detail really, really does show when you buy it. So if you are building a team or building your own brand, branded bills allows you to actually customize your own headwear as well. And so that is pretty cool. And let's say you are a fan of South Carolina. Maybe you're a fan of LSU. Maybe you're a fan of Iowa. Well, you can rock your favorite squad with a branded bills hats from their campus collection. They have partnerships with over 30 colleges around the country, so you can rock out in style. So make sure to go and check them out. Head to brandedbills.com and use code BBQUITA, that is BBQUITA, for 15% off your first order. That is code BBQUITA at brandedbills.com. All right. Let's move on to the next topic. And it is still in the women's college basketball realm, because the Big East has agreed to a deal with ESPN. All right? And I want to talk about it, okay? Okay. So, you all may know this. I'm not sure. The Big East, which includes the behemoth, UConn Huskies. The Big East actually signed a deal with ESPN about game media rights for the future. So let's actually go through this real quick. Because let me find my notes about this deal, because I think it's important to talk about. So let's get into it. The Big East is back on ESPN after about a decade apart. The Big East and ESPN are making their partnership again, between two very, very well-known entities, right? We all know the Big East. It's been around for forever. And then we all know ESPN as well, because ESPN has deals with just about every single relevant NCAA conference. That's actually a big deal. So this week, the Big East and ESPN announced a 6-year media rights deal that would stream more than 75 women's basketball games every season on ESPN Plus. All right. So 75 games plus a year will be on ESPN Plus. So another subscription, guys. Another subscription. Kim K says, horrible news. Bye-bye SNY coverage of UConn. Yes, SNY, for forever it felt like SNY was covering, was basically the exclusive company covering the UConn women's basketball team. Like, I'm not exactly sure if SNY was covering like other sports as well, but like they were handling the UConn games for women's basketball, and I thought they did a fantastic job. Last year was the end of that deal, and now the Big East and UConn had to figure out something else. You got to figure out what else to do, who else to partner with, and so this deal is not just about women's basketball, though my focus, of course, is about women's basketball. Val Ackerman, who is the Big East commissioner, she did say streaming on ESPN gives all 22 of our sports, especially women's basketball, the visibility they've earned and access our fans expect. All right. And so, it's this is not a full return to cable TV, national cable TV for the Big East, but the deal does live on ESPN streaming service. And so for the Big East women's basketball as a whole, like, I think this is a good step. Now, would it be better if it was actually on ESPN? Yes. However, it is what it is. And so, it's going to give a great opportunity for other Big East programs. And here's the deal, guys. The whole purpose of all this stuff is to get everybody into paying so many subscriptions. It's crazy. It's another money grab. I get why ESPN is doing it. I am grateful that at least it's going to be somewhere, because again, it was kind of difficult to watch Big East games last year. It was difficult to watch non UConn Big East games, and even some UConn games as well is kind of difficult to watch. And so with the games being available on ESPN Plus, that is good. However, ESPN basically runs women's basketball. At this point, ESPN has the WNBA on full lock. With the new media rights deal starting next year, it won't be as full of a lock, but like right now it's full lock for ESPN, right? They have the SEC, they have the ACC, right? They got the Big East, right? They don't have the Big Ten, so that's something. They do not have the Big Ten, but like when it comes to women's basketball, like they got a lot of our stuff on lock, and I just wanted to let you all know. What was going on that front, because ESPN will be airing Big East games on ESPN Plus, and I guarantee you that, well, they didn't put this in the press release, but I guarantee that part of it will also be an option to upgrade. So we will see a lot of for my assumption based on this information is that we will see a lot of ESPN 2 and regular ESPN airing of UConn women's basketball games on actual ESPN properties, like real TV ESPN properties. But all the non-UConn games will just stay on ESPN 2. Chicago Cheetah says ESPN is trying to control everything. Yeah, because here's the deal. Media networks are trying their best to find ways to stay relevant and trying to make sure people don't cut the cord. Or at least with this is more of a online thing, and so like it doesn't matter if you cut the cord, you can still be able to watch these games. But they're just trying to stay relevant and trying to find ways to get your money. So like, I get it from a media perspective. I absolutely get why they own all of this stuff and why they're made the agreements that they've made. However, in terms of choice, it does hurt that a little bit. It does hurt that. That is for sure. That is very, very true. Rotu says, I catch some games on individual college radio stations as well that aren't on TV, especially some of the HBCUs. Yeah. Here's the thing. A lot of college teams, a lot of the, especially bigger college teams, they have radio, like a radio station, and they are doing a really good job of doing radio broadcast calls of the games. And so like, absolutely, if there's games that you want to watch and games happen to not be on TV, dude, totally, you need to figure out the radio station for that school and stream it online, because they do a good job doing a radio broadcast. I'm just saying. I am just saying, okay? Lindy says, is the viewership going to be there? I don't see it. Oversaturation. I mean, it's on ESPN Plus, so it's not like it's saturating TV. But the viewership will be there for UConn games, and it could be that ESPN is like just making a bet of like, hey, we know we're going to air some games that a lot of people may not watch, but we have a big behemoth in women's college basketball that will be to air and will possibly make up for the viewership of the other games, possibly. Speculation on that, but like that's my thought on there. L Down says, enough people talk about nonsense on Twitter. Appreciate you covering these kinds of topics. Well, thank you. Appreciate the support. Kim says, Quita should try to get in the college. Announcing. Yeah, I would love to. If there's anybody listening who has anything to do with women's college basketball, I would be down, okay? I'd be down to do radio broadcasts, TV broadcasts, whatever local thing. I will travel, whatever. I would love an opportunity to do whatever in the space of women's college basketball. I was actually having a conversation yesterday about it with somebody who possibly knows somebody, and so we'll see. But yeah, I would love to do that. That'd be very, very fun for me. Very, very fun. King K says UConn's viewership on SNY was higher than Mets games ratings. Wow, that's wild. That is wild. Okay? Wild. All right. Let's go to the other college basketball news, and then we'll break after this. We will break after this. The other college basketball news, guys. And it has to do with the challenge call. Here's the deal, guys. You all remember this last year. Actually, for the last several seasons, this has been a thing in women's college basketball where we hadn't had a coach's challenge option. And so what we end up seeing is in critical moments of the game, the refs botching a call. And there was no way for anybody to review it. There was no way. No way for anybody to review it. And we have the coach's challenge in the NBA. We have the coach's challenge in the WNBA. And now, finally, as of yesterday, I was waiting until today to I was waiting. Well, as of actually, I think it was Tuesday. Actually, anyway, I was waiting for the end of this week to actually talk through this. Okay, because finally, after years of waiting, the coach's challenge has been approved by the NCAA's Playing Rules Oversight Panel. All right, so they met on Tuesday. And they officially approved a coach's review challenge, which is awesome. So there was a bunch of discussion over the last month or so, and they did what we all thought they were going to do, and they made the call to put this in place for the 2025-2026 season, which means next season at the start of women's college basketball, we will see a coach's challenge be available. So we also saw a couple of other things as well. And I think coach's challenge can be made at any point in a game. Okay, that is something to note. Also, we did see we did see them put some specificity to this rule. So they said that under this rule, the following play, and this is exactly from the from the NCAA website, says under the rule, the following plays can be challenged at any point during a game. And actually, let me put this on the screen so you all can see it. I am very much of a fan of don't just listen to me and believe me. I will show you proof. Okay, and so let's go to the proof, and I'll show you on the screen real quick, so we can go through all of these details. Okay. All right, give me one moment, guys. Also, if y'all could please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It really does. It truly helps the channel out a whole lot. It really means a lot. If you all could support this channel. It really does mean a lot. Okay. All right, let's go to, so it says new rules approved. This is the NCAA's website. Coaches challenge approved for women's basketball. Okay, so let's go through this. So under the rule change, the following plays can be challenged at any point during a game. And so those include ruled out of bounds violations, ruled backcourt violations, whether a change in team possession occurred before the ruling of a foul where free throws would be involved, and whether a foul was assessed to the correct player. All right. And so coaches can make those decisions to end up challenging. Okay. It says officials cannot initiate review on these calls with the exception of whether a foul was assessed to the correct player. So referees are not going to review on their own. They can't initiate the review on their own. However, coaches can do that. Okay. Say teams will not be here's the big change that I want to go through. I want to make sure y'all understand because this is not the normal. This is not the normal way that that the challenge works in both the NBA and the WNBA. This is not the normal one. So listen to this. This is critical. Listen to this. It says teams will not be required to have a timeout to make a video review challenge in the NCAA women's basketball competition. However, a failed challenge will result in a technical foul for an excessive timeout. So, you could be out of timeouts. Right? You could be out of timeouts. You still call a challenge. And if you call that and you lose, well, technical. Now, this is something that's very different. This is not how the WNBA works for sure. Says the panel also approved an experimental rule in exhibition games for the 2025-2026 season to allow coaches to make video review challenges on a foul charged to their team at any time during the game. Okay. They also made a bunch of other rule changes. Definitely check the NCAA website for this. So yeah, check the NCAA website. But I did just want to mention one thing that I actually thought was kind of like a cool change. Finally, the rule that forced jerseys to be tucked in at all times, that rule is gone. Okay? They eliminated that rule. That's just very random. and another one I wanted to call out in particular is this one. They changed the rule allowing defenders multiple one-hand touches on stationary players holding the ball or on a dribbler. These touches would be legal as long as they are not repetitive and do not affect the rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness of the defender of the dribbler or reroute the offensive player. So basically, you can do like hot stove touches to the player with the ball, right? And so that's a change that was made that I also wanted to specifically call out. But yeah, there are some other changes as well, which are cool. But anyway. Jake says, I love the jersey rule. Yeah. All right. William says, can the fans do a challenge? That'd be hilarious if fans were able to make challenges. That would be, but I fear that the fans would never agree on everything to actually make a challenge. Okay. So anyway. Anyway. Kevin says the WNBA hand check has officially arrived. Here's the deal, though. Like, I like this rule because I'm not a fan of anytime you touch a player on the opposing team that it's a foul. Like, I think some people are like, if you touch her hip, it's a foul. If you touch her off ball hand lightly, it's a foul. Like, not every time someone touches somebody else is a foul. Now, to be clear, what exactly does this thing say? It says this rule, it allows you to have multiple one-hand touches on a player with or without the ball. And it's legal as long as it's not repetitive and does not affect the rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness of the dribbler or reroute the offensive player. So you can do it, but if you are impeding the movement of the opposing player, then it's a foul, which I completely agree with. All right? Completely agree with. Doge says, Quita, can you talk about AZ not being nominated for Best Comeback Athlete? I didn't see that, so I can't comment on something I didn't see. So not sure. I'll check that out. I'll check that out, and I'll check that out, and I'll talk about it later, I guess. I didn't see it, so yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Terry. I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate your support. All right, guys, that's the stream. We talked about a couple of various different things, and I know that this is not the most exciting of topics, but I do think it's important to let you all know what's going on in the world of women's basketball or women's college basketball, because yes, we're in the WNBA sphere right now. However, there's always lots of news happening related to women's basketball, and so always make sure to rock out with this channel for more insightful commentary, exaggeration, college and WNBA coverage. So if y'all appreciate it, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And make sure to tell a neighbor and tell a friend to check this out. Here's the deal. The thing I have promised myself and the thing that I have promised you guys is I will make content that is meant to bring the game of women's basketball forward, to grow the women's basketball game, to grow our collective knowledge as fans of the game. And sometimes that will bring a lot of views. Sometimes that won't. And regardless, I will still do it because I actually think it's important and I actually love the game of women's basketball. So thank y'all so much. If y'all could, please share this. I know this was probably going to be like the worst performing Quita in the Morning episode I've ever done because, again, it's not talking about the RG3 of it all that everyone else is talking about. But hopefully y'all still rock with it anyway. Thank y'all so much. And y'all have a great rest of your day. Let me find the exit. Let me find the exit real quick. I feel like I keep moving it and it just disappears. Anyway, I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Are you ready?
Ready, set.